You will cue me in. Good afternoon, all the viewers at home and those who are online following this briefing online, those also who are on the audio sessions. Thank you very much. My name is William Baloy. We are going to request Minister Ntshavheni to come and give the update on the situation in the country. This is part of the government's program of making sure that on daily basis, the society, both the South Africans, regional and continental people and the world are informed of the situation in the country. Minister.
Good afternoon. Over the past 2 weeks, our country made international and national headlines on the incidents of violence and looting which took place in predominantly the provinces of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. As government, we can confidently state that our country has returned the tide and we are well on the trajectory of stability, and we are rebuilding the economy and ensuring social cohesion. In the past 24 hours, we had no incidents of looting and violence in both provinces. Our stabilization efforts include ensuring that SAPS maintain high visibility in areas which have a potential of a resurgence in violence and looting, and SAPS remain on high alert to respond quickly to intelligence they receive of those who are still planning to loot and destroy infrastructure. On the other hand, members of the South African National Defence Force are working in collaboration with the SAPS in undertaking roadblocks, vehicle control points, undertaking foot and vehicle patrols, cordoning and searching vehicles, clearing roads which were blocked, and patrolling and protecting the national key points. On recovery of stolen items, in terms of recovery of stolen items, the South African Police Service are undertaking home searches to recover stolen items. This campaign is bearing fruits because a number of items have been recovered, and these will be used as evidence when the suspects appear in court for counts of theft and looting. We still call on members of the community to come forward and give us information on those people that were involved in the looting. The members of the public must not take the law into their own hands, but they must report to the relevant law enforcement authorities who will follow up on the looters. We also request the public to always be vigilant when receiving money. Never accept stained banknotes, as they have likely been discolored from ink dye used in security devices such as ATMs. Be on the lookout for discoloration along the edges, including black, purple, red, and blue, as well as combination of these colors. These banknotes can no longer be used as a means of payment. The public is encouraged to report these banknotes to SAPS Crime Stop number or by using my SAPS app. Appearance of suspects involved in the looting, but also involved in the violence and also in the incitement of violence. We reported in the past few days that there were a number of arrests that were undertaken by law enforcement agencies for incitement of violence, looting, and public violence. We want to reiterate that those who have endangered our democracy have no place to hide, and we will ensure that they face the might of the law. The National Prosecuting Authority has reported that about 200 suspects appeared in various courts around Gauteng this week after being arrested in connection with looting and public violence. Some of these suspects have been granted bail and some remanded in custody as the investigations are ongoing. 3 key suspects facing charges of incitement to commit public violence have appeared in various courts and remanded in custody for bail applications. One suspect handed himself over to the police in Durban yesterday after a warrant of arrest had been issued against him. He will be appearing in the Randburg Magistrate Court in Johannesburg tomorrow. On resumption of economic activity, yesterday we confirmed that the vital N3 and N2 road networks are back to normal functioning, and by Sunday morning, the authorities reported that more than 100 trucks per hour were passing key checkpoints. This is en route to Durban, with strong traffic from Durban to other South African destinations and neighboring markets. We also reported that the main line of the railway network, Johannesburg to Durban, as well as the Durban to Kroonstad line, as well as the Durban to Richards Bay rail line, were operating. We also indicated that with agreement from industry, one line between Durban and Richards Bay was closed for routine maintenance. We are confirming or reconfirming that the ports of Durban and Richards Bay are fully operational. Large retail chains have reported that supply of food and other products to South African stores and neighboring states affected by disruptions in the supply chains in KwaZulu-Natal are largely back on track. South Africa's 3 largest retail groups with stores throughout the region noted that disruptions were mainly the result of pressures on the N3 corridor from the Durban port and interruption in supply from factories in KwaZulu-Natal. Goods sourced from South African manufacturers elsewhere in the country have largely been unaffected. Excuse me. Most shopping malls which were closed due to violence and looting, including the iconic Maponya Mall in Soweto, have reopened their doors for the community to start buying the necessities they require. Members of the South African National Defence Force and the South African Police Service are patrolling various other shopping malls and ensuring that this resume trade safely and continue with trade safely. In addition, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition has issued an exemption from certain provisions of the Competition Act to enable firms to collaborate and ensure availability of basic food and consumer items, emergency products, medical and hygiene supplies, including pharmaceutical products, refined petroleum products, and emergency cleanup products. Our priority currently is strengthening the security of supply to KZN and other provinces and to neighboring countries. On estimation of damages, the cost of the damage to factories and retail facilities in KZN will have a significant impact on the economy, jobs and access to goods and services. This impact will be felt both in KZN and across the rest of the country. Some production facilities have been damaged, though fortunately most factories and suppliers' facilities are intact. Work is underway to assess the cost of the damage to property as a result of the unrest. SAPOA, which is the South African Property Organization, have provided estimates to the damages in KZN to the extent that the business owners who are in its members have provided the data. And to date, according to the estimates in KZN alone, in terms of extensive damage, 161 malls were affected, 11 warehouses were affected, 8 factories affected, and 161 liquor outlets and distributors were extensively damaged. And over 200 shopping centers, majority of them were looted and damaged. And over 100 malls were burnt or had significant fire damage, and approximately 3,000 stores were looted. And in KZN alone, they are estimating currently that stock to the value of 1.5 billion rands have been lost in Durban alone. And 1,400 ATMs have been damaged, and 300 banks and post office outlets vandalized. and 90 pharmacists were damaged. 150,000 jobs are at risk as we speak in KZN, and 50,000 informal traders were affected. 40,000 businesses were affected, and they're estimating currently the loss to be 20 billion in KZN. That will be the impact on the KZN GDP. SAPOA will later in the week collate data on the cost of the damage in Gauteng. However, the South African Special Risk Insurance Association, SASRIA, which is the government as the shareholding or the sole shareholder, will conduct an assessment on the full extent of the damage, and the economic cluster of ministers are consolidating proposals for the government package of intervention, including for small businesses that are mostly uninsured. The Department of Small Business Development is working with SAPOA, business associations such as NAFCOC, FABCOS, South African Franchise Association, National Healthcare Professionals Association, the South African Informal Traders Association, and others to ensure that interventions also benefit small businesses directly and quickly. The package will also include for poor households. On fake news statements, government calls on everyone to be circumspect in what they post and share online. In this most trying period in our democracy, there have been a disturbing trend where false information is deliberately circulated to drive a certain agenda. Those who post fake or false news are intent on creating fear and panic. We cannot and must not allow those malicious agendas to sow discord and disharmony in our country. Repeatedly in this period, there have been cases where people have reposted and shared false or fake news in the form of pictures, videos, news links, public posts, or voice notes. Many people have done so unaware that what they have shared is fake, false, and downright dangerous. Government calls on everyone to think twice before simply sharing or reposting content you have received. Fake or false news is often easy to spot. A simple Google search on a topic or occurrence will quickly reveal that what has been shared is fake or false. Similarly, a reverse image search on Google will reveal if a picture has been used before. This is an easy way to see if something that has been shared is relevant to a current situation or a current issue, or is an old image or video that is being used to inflame the current situation. Resources such as africacheck.org contain a wealth of information on spotting fake news and regularly fact-check issues in the communication environment. While WhatsCrap on WhatsApp, which is whatscrap.africa, is a handy resource to both identify and report fake or false information shared on WhatsApp. The official government website, www.gov.za, has all the latest news, speeches, and statements about the work of government, as well as headline news. It is a one-stop portal for news and information and has a wealth of additional resources. Other useful resources is this My SAPS app, which is free crime reporting mobile application available for smartphones. It's available on Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. The app allows citizens to interact with law enforcement officials more effectively by providing tip-offs anonymously through the app, in finding the nearest police stations and facilities, and quick access to official SAPS social media platforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the latest update and briefing. Now, allow us, Minister, to take a batch of questions. We will start with 5 questions, and we'll see how many questions do we have later on. Maybe before we start with the WhatsApp questions, let me check if there are hands inside. Thank you. Let's you will start by identifying yourself and the media house. Okay.
Tshomo Agi from Newsroom Africa. Just a few questions. First of all, can we get an understanding as if there are investigations underway with the schools that have been vandalized? especially in KZN and in Gauteng. We do know that there are like 130 schools in KZN and 4 in Gauteng. Are there investigations there that will be taking place? And then you did say that the situation has stabilized. Has the time also arrived to actually withdraw the SANDF members off the ground, or are there hotspots that you are concerned about and they will stay there? And if they stay there, how long are we expecting them to be there for? And then is there an approach to assist small businesses that have also been affected by this looting? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tseho. Let me look at any other hand. No hand. Takalani, can we take the online questions?
Thanks. The first question is from Thando Maseko from Business Day. And the question is, now that the dust has seemingly settled, does the government have an estimated of the economic impact of the insurrection? And the second question is from Siphelele from Business Report. And the question is, when are the economic cluster ministers planning to address the nation on the impact of this unrest as well as business mitigating measures? And the third question is from Faith Daniels from ENCA. And the question is, are there comprehensive relief packages being considered for businesses who suffered damages during the violence? If so, what shape and form would that take? And the following question is from Thando Maseko. This question, the question says, please clarify whether state security notified the police ministry on looming unrest, because the police minister today told reporters in Durban that there was no intelligence sent to the subs. And there's a question from Alan Sikombe from Business Day. And the question is, when will President Cyril Ramaphosa have a question and answer session with the media to address conflicting messages coming from his cabinet ministers and to answer broader and pressing questions? Can I still continue?
No, thank you very much for that batch. I think we will take the second batch later. Minister, the first batch of questions have been asked. Maybe we can respond to them.
Thank you. In terms of schools that are vandalized, the assessment is all the infrastructure that has been vandalized, whether private or public, because the repair work must be factored in those interventions that we're talking about. And that is inclusive of the whole of government and any other facilities that will come through. That's the work that will be done. They may not be done by SASRIA, but they may be done by the Department of Public Works, but we are working collectively to make sure that everything that has been vandalized or damaged is catered for and repaired as speedily as that happen, as it can. And the other question was whether, because the situation is stable, we withdraw the South African National Defence Force. The South African National Defence Force have a responsibility to make sure that not only the situation is stabilized, but also to make sure that they discourage further attempts at an insurrection and the coordination. So the deployment will be withdrawn when everything we are sure that all the instigators are back and the country is moving and everything is safe and the community must feel safe in their own homes. Currently, even when we say the situation is stabilized, communities are not necessarily feeling safe. They think they will be attacked, business. That's why they continue to say, no, we want to be escorted, we want this, and that. And we're trying our best to make sure that the intervention of the South African Defence Force must not then create a dependency of their presence, but to make sure that community can feel safe and operate in their own environment, whether it's a business community or it's normal residents. Their presence must be to ensure that even if they don't see them, they know that they're safe. and because that is the response. So they will be only withdrawn at that time where everybody, as South Africans, we feel that we are safe, we can go back to our normal life. But the third wave, and we hope we don't get to the fourth wave, because we're hoping that we all adhere to the protocols of keeping safe, we can then go back to our normal lives, go to our restaurants, and not feel that when you're sitting in a mall in a restaurant, you'll be attacked, or when you are having a celebration, a party with your family and friends in a holiday facility, you'll be attacked because they're attacking that facility. So that's the extent at which the South African National Defence Force must give comfort to the South Africans. It's only then that they will withdraw and make sure that they go back to their own duties, but the responsibility of the national key points remains theirs. And you asked the question of whether there are attempts to assist small businesses. The statement has provided the details that there is a package that is coming through that is being worked with collectively with a cluster of ministers, and we're engaging with the business associations that represents the small businesses and what other form to say who is directly affected. That's why when the support detail gives you already the number of pharmacies, we give you the number, tomorrow they should give you an additional numbers of small businesses that are directly affected. We've spoken about how the informal sector has been affected itself directly. So we are working to make sure that small businesses are secured, more especially because they are not insured in the main. And we're saying, how does government come in to bridge the gap to make them return to normality? But also for us, if there's no protection or support to small business, we know the impact on unemployment and the livelihoods of majority of South Africans, because most South Africans are dependent on those small businesses that are operational, either as owners of those businesses, but also as employees of those businesses. We've indicated the numbers in terms of you'll get the details in the statement around the impact or economic impact on the insurrection or attempted insurrection. That number, SASRIA is still going to work to make sure that that number is validated, a full assessment. We are currently working with this property association that has 90% of their members covering up. 90% of the damage was done to their members. So their estimates are quite good, but it's day-to-day estimates. It's not even a full estimate. Today we only spoke up what they're estimating to be the numbers for KZN. We are waiting for them to give us the estimates for Gauteng. But SASRIA, which is the overall insurer of everybody, will then come in and do an assessment for the overall, and they've committed to do that as quickly as possible. And for those small businesses that have been insured, SASRIA is paying quick enough. But we are also saying for those who are not insured, the gap that must be that government must stand in to make sure those businesses return to normal. But I must also clarify that the package of measures that we are working on as ministers in the economic cluster is not only for businesses that have been affected by the recent violence. It's also to mitigate the impact of the closure of the economy or the third wave, the prevalence of the third wave, and that's why we encourage South Africans, and we are happy that the national group is leading the way of vaccination. We want South Africans to vaccinate as quickly as possible so that even if we go into another surge in terms of COVID-19 infections, our economy is not affected. The economy can continue to operate because we'll know that majority, even if they get infected, they will not be hospitalized or they will not be required to stay at home, they will be able to conduct economic activity. Then there's a question about when is the economic minister of economic cluster briefing the media. Yesterday, as ministers of the economic cluster, we received the first package of proposals from the officials, and there are things that we've sent back so that they can work on those and refine them and look at what is possible within the current arrangements in terms of the fiscus, but also in terms of partnership. As we speak now, the president is meeting with business, not only big business, they are meeting with big business, small businesses, including the informal traders associations. They are in the meeting with the president to say what can we do together, because our commitment as South Africa as a whole is that we have always worked together to rebuild industry, both big and small, formal and informal are committed to work with their own government to rebuild. So we are engaging with them. So as soon as the final product is available and agreed to, and will make the right impact and can be executed speedily, because there can be a package that becomes available, it can be announced, but it may not be quick to execute or implement it. So what the ministers in the economic cluster are looking at is that which they can be executed. And we are hoping the president will be the one that announces that package of measures, and the economic cluster ministers will then clarify what will they do with respect to that which the president would have announced as a package of measures to intervene both for rebuilding the provinces that have been affected, but also for helping recover the economy from the impact of COVID-19 as our second round of interventions from government. And then there's the question of when will the president do a Q&A and also deal with the discord against ministers. I think we have clarified to the colleagues that the only spokesperson of government is the minister in the presidency, who I'm the acting minister in the presidency. And also that we have impressed on the colleagues to indicate that they must stick to the line, and it's not time, and this hour is not time to venture their own opinions, but we must communicate that which we all know that has happened. And we must admit that there have been lessons that have to be learned. We have learned the lessons and we have corrected, and it's not time for us to be going and throwing mud against each other and saying this has happened, this has not happened, and whatever. But we all know the truth amongst ourselves. We all know what had to be done to recover ourselves. We all accepted that we were not necessarily ready when this thing happened, and we have recovered, and we must focus on that. And also including our briefings that we do to the portfolio committees, which we must to account for our work. It's not time to venture to our own opinions. We must stick to the facts at hand. And there's a key message that government is communicating. Where we have gone, where we are not ready, we have acknowledged where we are not ready. Where we were ready, we have acknowledged where we were ready. Where there was a miscommunication, we have acknowledged where there's been a miscommunication. But it's not, so the president does not have to deal with that part. The ministers are aware of their role, and those who continue to breach the protocols will have to face the consequences of that breach of the protocols as set by both Cabinet and also the National Security Council. And in terms of the president doing a Q&A, and this is a question that we have been dealing with in SANEF, we have agreed timelines with SANEF to do a Q&A. As soon as it's feasible for the president to do a Q&A, we'll organize and facilitate the engagements. If it's a standing agreement with us and with ourselves and SANEF that we'll have that Q&A with the president, whether this had happened or not, there will be a Q&A, we'll have that engagement. And not only for SANEF, but also for foreign correspondents, and everybody will arrange, and then we'll have the president conversing with the media, taking questions from the media. But I think now, given the situation where we are in, we need to allow the president some space to focus on marshalling us as ministers and cabinet, including the security structures, to make sure that the country is safe, the country is stable, and the economy is rebuilt. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. TK, can we have another round of questions? I hope there are not many, but maybe before we go to them, let me check if there is a follow-up question in the press room. Yes, ma'am. Can we have the mic? Thank you. And again,
It's the last
details.
one.
Your details. Start with them again.
Okay, Tseho from Newsroom Africa. I just want to find out, we do know that Justice Moseneke has now suggested and recommended that the elections be postponed to February. If we can just get your response to that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. TK, can we go for the next batch of questions?
Thank you. The following question is from Erin Bates from Business Day. And the first question is, does the state view today's unrest as a continuation of last week's riots or a new and second round? And the following question, what active steps is government taking to mitigate the risk of flare-ups and or second attacks? And the following question, have the army, police, and state security improved how they gather intelligence since the original looting and violence? If so, how? And has South Africa asked for support from other countries' intelligence services to analyze the unrest? And is evidence against the alleged instigators persuasive enough to result in successful convictions? And we have a question from Jai Davis from EWN. The question is, how many instigators are law enforcement after? As Minister Cele said, 12. And Deputy Minister Zizukodwa told 702 Breakfast that definitely more than 12 instigators are behind the unrest. And police have asked people to come forward and surrender stolen goods. Is there any indication how successful this call has been this far? And there's a question from Marvin Adams, who is a freelance journalist, and the question is, how can government reassure citizens that the security cluster would be able to deal with extremists like Mozambique? And when government officials, I think this question, it has been dealt with already. And the following question is, the Premier, David Makura, said in a briefing hosted by Ahmed Kathrada Foundation that the government security agencies wouldn't be able to deal with an external forces like ISIS. If he is correct, can the government deal with it if it had to happen? And there's a question from Mahlatse from EWN.
How many are they left, TK?
Two. I'm left with two questions.
Okay. I think some of them we will revisit, but go with the last two.
The question from Mahlatse is, can government take the country in its confidence and tell us what the national intelligence estimate warned about last year, and did cabinet or the security cluster discussed an operational plan to respond to the warning of political instability, increased violence, and etc.? And if the operational plan was indeed discussed, did the cabinet feel it could adequately respond? And the last question, it's from Yanis Roberts from Media 24. And the question is, businesses are looking for certainty on insurance claims from Sasria, given there will be a huge bill of maybe over 60 billion rand. What reassurances can you provide that Sasria will be able to cover this kind of amount of claims? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Quite a handful of questions. I hope when we want to revisit some of them, you would check them. No, thank you very much. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. As I indicated earlier, there's a question around whether the business wants reassurance from Sasria. The meeting that I've indicated that the president is meeting with business includes Sasria. And the assurance that business requires from Sasria has been granted, that the Sasria will do its part to make sure that all the claims are covered that have to be covered, including an intervention by government for those who are not covered in terms of the insurance. I thought I indicated and clarified that earlier. Then there are two questions. Okay, let me deal with the issue around the evidence, whether evidence is enough. I'm sure the police work with the prosecution to make sure that the evidence is tight enough. And the National Prosecuting Authority, I'm sure when they take a decision that they're going to prosecute, they are confident on the strength of the evidence that they've been provided for. And they will not make arrest unless they think that they can mount a successful prosecution. And we've got full confidence in our National Prosecuting Authority. Then there was a question around today's unrest. Today there was, when we were sitting there, we just got confirmation. A small group of people were attempting to loot because they were saying they are hungry, they cannot find food. They were quickly dispersed by the police. It was a very small group that were attempting to loot. They have been dispersed by the police, and there's no situation. It's not like it's a normal course of people saying we want food and all that. And those are the instances that the police and the military continue to be on the lookout for to make sure that is done. And that was in Hammersdale today. And in terms of the question around foreign intelligence services, no country can outsource its foreign intelligence service. If we outsource the foreign intelligence to any other country, we can as well outsource this country. We are not going to ask for assistance from foreign intelligence services. Within our own government, we've got capacity of intelligence services. And whether that capacity performed optimally or not is things that we'll do a postmortem on that. But currently, as we speak, they have been providing sufficient intelligence to enable the police to act and to enable the military to act. We are here today because the intelligence service of South Africa continues to work and function, despite the challenges that we may have like any other family, but they continue to work to make sure that we remain safe. And that should be the comfort of South Africans. Whether there is room for improvement, we will look at those when we do an assessment as government and say what are the areas we can improve on, what is the cleanup that we need to clean up. Similarly with the police, whether there has been, we have capacity, we've got capacity, and whether there's room for improvement, obviously there will be room for improvement, and we'll do that assessment on the areas where there must be improvement, and we'll respond accordingly and make sure that those areas that must be cleaned up will be cleaned up successfully. And there's a question which is also linked to a comment by Premier Makura of how do we assure South Africans that we have the capacity to deal with foreign attacks. And also a commentary, I have not heard Premier Makura, and therefore I will not want to speak on his behalf of whether he commented that we don't have that capacity. What I can assure South Africans is that the military of this country have displayed over and again that they have capacity to protect this country. That's why when they got in, within 48 hours, the situation was stabilized. We are here because the military, when they rolled in, everything went back to normal, quick enough. It shows the capacity of the military. And we must bear in mind that the military ordinarily do not come into national, in the internal issues, but they came in and responded quite quickly. So that shows you the capacity and capability for us to respond. And we do not need external intervention from any other country, whether within the region or anywhere else. We have the capacity within our own country to resolve our issues. They be security, they be intelligence, they be policing. We are fully secured in this country. And the last question is that I got. The others I couldn't get, so you'll have to repeat as I stand here so that I can note them. On local government elections, the IEC undertook a process of making sure that they can be comfortable through an independent process, determine whether elections will be free and fair as planned. Local government elections will be free and fair as planned for October. And Judge Museneke was appointed to do that work on behalf of the IEC. He consulted the parties, he assessed the evidence at hand, and we want to express our appreciation to the work of Judge Museneke. The report of Judge Museneke, in terms of his report, he has said elections will not be free and fair under the current circumstances, and he's recommending a postponement. The IEC has communicated that they will study the report of Judge and the recommendations of Judge Museneke and will make the necessary recommendations. We will await the report ourselves, we'll study the report and will engage with the IEC in terms of the process going forward and the final decision, because the decision remains that of the IEC. Otherwise, there's a process that must be undertaken to make sure that if those elections have to be postponed they must be postponed in line with the provisions of our Constitution. And the provisions of our Constitution are clear in terms of the timelines that has to be observed between the previous elections and the new elections. And to that respect will allow the process of determining the date of the elections, and if the postponement is warranted based on the report of Judge Museneke, the process that must be followed to get their postponement as required by our Constitution. Remember, we are celebrating 25 years of our Constitution, which reigns supreme and will remain guided by that Constitution and follow that Constitution to the letter. There are a few questions that I missed because they were being read by a fellow fast reader like me. Can you just take me through? I think it's 4 questions that I missed.
Thanks, Minister. I think the first question that you might have missed, the question that was asked by Marvin Adams of how can government reassure citizens that the country...
I dealt with that one.
The issue of the extremists like the Mozambique.
Yes, I dealt with that one.
And there's a question of the issue of whether the issue of national intelligence estimate won about the last year and whether the cabinet has discussed the matter. Well, the question was saying...
No, that's fine. I got it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
The other one?
And okay, the insurance one was answered, and the question of how many instigators are law enforcement after, Minister Cele said 12, DM Ziziko told 702 breakfast that definitely more than 12 instigators are behind the unrest. I think it's one of the questions that we missed. And another question, Minister, you will correct me if this question was answered, if whether the army and police have improved how they gather intelligence since the original looting and violence. I mean, according to this question, they said if it was improved, how has it been improved? I think those are the questions that were missed from the questions that were asked in the last question. Thanks. Back to you.
Thank you. Let me start with the issue of how many instigators. Of course, the police continue to do an investigation about the instigators. Maybe we might have started with them knowing that it's 12, and as they continue with investigations, the number may go up. That's why we, yesterday, if not day before, I requested that we defer from mentioning the number and focus on that the instigators are arrested. And we committed that all instigators will be arrested, whether they are 12, whether 24, or whether they are 100. They will be arrested and dealt with in line with the provisions of the law, and they will get the concomitant legal penalty that they must face for bringing this country into the type of danger and threat that they have, and threatening the constitutional democracy that our forebears fought for, that our founding fathers bequeathed us. It cannot be accepted that they instigate such a crime against the people of South Africa, and they will be dealt with accordingly. It doesn't matter the number. And whether the army and the police have improved how they gather intelligence, there is coordination in terms of the work in the security cluster around intelligence gathering, led by state security, and that work continues and the sharing of information continues. That's why the response has been effective. And whether we can take in the country into confidence about the national intelligence estimates that were shared. In terms of intelligence information, what I can say to you, some of the intelligence information is strategic, some of it is tactical, and some of it is operational. So operational information will go to the relevant operational structures, and tactical information will go to some of the relevant technical structure. At a level of cabinet, we'll discuss that which is strategic, and that which is strategic has always been that the unemployment rate, and the president has been quoted, the unemployment rate poses a security threat for this country, and the president has referred to that as many a time as possible and committed us to work faster to deal with the unemployment rate, in particular youth unemployment, and also with when we're faced with the levels of COVID-19 and the prevalence of COVID-19, the impact of unemployment and job losses and the impact on poor households. That's why we continue to put measures to intervene in the schemes to make sure that our poor do not become vulnerable. So at a strategic level, the fact that we youth unemployment, general unemployment, but also hunger that has been exacerbated by COVID has been discussed, and we've always known for that. That's why even now in the current response, there's been a very quick intervention to make sure that our people do not go hungry. Those who cannot have food, the president announced that SASA has been directed to make sure that the food parcels within the current available means before a new package is finalized, SASA is able to provide food for the households that may be lacking in food, and all the other interventions will communicate later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. As I've indicated, this is part of a series of regular briefings that would follow. I know we might not exhaust all the questions, but Minister, allow us with your kind permission to take the very last set of questions. I think there should not be more than 5 just down there, and we close. TK?
Thank you. We only have 3 questions left, and one is from Apiwa de Klerk from Sunday Times, and I think it's fairly a clarity-seeking question. The question is, can we get a clarity on whether the President spoke with the Minister of Defense over a characterization of the unrest, which seems to be a contradiction from what the President said on Friday? And Anthony Meyer from Pretoria FM, when will the President release the SIU report on digital vibes? It's been almost 3 weeks since he received the report from the SIU. And the last question is from Sianda Ndlovu from the Citizen. And the question is, what will happen with the recovered items recovered despite that they will be used for evidence? Back to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. This brings us to the last set of batch of questions that we have taken. Would you kindly take these ones as the very last ones? And thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you. Let me start with what will happen to recovered goods, except albeit that they will be used for evidence. The recovered goods will be destroyed, and why you destroy them is because those goods, if they circulate in the markets, they diminish the value of other goods. So we cannot afford to collapse the economy by circulating stolen goods, allowing stolen goods to circulate in the economy. So they have to be destroyed in line with the police. It's part of managing the goods that are in the country. That's why we manage what's in the country and what goes out of the country, because every goods that is in the country must be accounted for. We cannot allow the circulation of recovered goods because it will destroy the economy. Imagine if your laptop that you bought for 8,000 rands becomes available in the streets for 1,000 rands, what it will do to the economy of the country. So that a simple, straightforward example. And in terms of when will the President release Digital Vibes report, I thought all of us as South Africans understand that we are facing a national security challenge, and therefore the President must be solely focused on that national security challenge. I thought we'll understand that he'll have to put the report on the side and not read it and focus on dealing with the national security challenge. When the situation is stabilized, the President will further complete his assessment of the report and will deal with the Digital Vibes report. But as of now, the primary focus of the President and the Cabinet is the security of the country, and not only in terms of physical security, but also of food security. So and economic stability, we must focus on that to make sure that we continue to perform. And whether the President spoke with the Minister of Defense, I thought we had addressed this matter yesterday to say the position of Cabinet is clarified. is that which is led by the president, and the position of the National Security Council is that which is what was expressed by the cabinet. And I've explained that I'm the spokesperson of cabinet and also the spokesperson of the National Security Council. So whatever happens, what my colleagues say is my responsibility to manage my environment of communication. There is not the space of the president to do that, because it's my space to communicate. Thank you.
Once again, thank you very much, Minister. For the viewers at home, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's briefing. As we have indicated, there would be a series of briefings that would update the nation. This briefing is adjourned, and thank you very much.